Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. And today we're going to visit Britain. I'm Sherry Funk. My husband Charlie and I own Just Cruising Plus. We are a travel agency in Brentwood, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. We specialize in cruises and vacations. And today we're going to talk about one of our very favorite places to go and have been there numerous times. So Charlie, I will let you have it and let you introduce our guest.
Our speaker today is Jonathan Heisman. And if there's been anyone that we've had that has done any of the seminars that we've done that could be authoritative about this, Jonathan, who's the travel trade manager for the Western U.S. for Great Britain, is from Britain. So it would be very, very unlikely that we're going to get some secondhand information on something. In fact, we're going to learn about things from Jonathan's firsthand experience. And I'm really looking forward to it because Sherry mentioned we've been there several times and have loved it every time we went. We have typically used London as a base and circled out from there. And Jonathan's going to tell us about all the great things that you can do with a vacation like that. So Jonathan, take it away.
Thanks, guys. And of course, as I'm going through, if you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me and I'll be more than happy to try and answer them along the way. So as Sherry and Charles have said, my name is Jonathan. I'm based out of the LA consulate on the west coast of USA. So what I'm going to talk about today is going to be just a bit of basics about Great Britain for those of you who haven't been. We're going to talk about London, the southeast of England, central England, both of them because they are within a short distance of London. And I'm also going to pick up on Scotland as well. Before I start, just going to give a quick kind of update. Today is the 15th of January. The current situation in the UK, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is we're in lockdown. You do need a negative test to be able to visit, and then you do still need a 10-day quarantine. So it's obviously not perfect at the moment, but hopefully from this, a lot of you guys will look to travel a bit later in the future once we are all able to again. So when we are able to travel again, one thing that we have implemented in the UK, which is also in Scotland and Wales as well as England, is the We're Good to Go standard. So this may be something you might want to look out for when booking accommodations or attractions. And it's something that basically the business has said that they're going to adhere to certain rules and regulations that we have put forward along with the Public Health of England. You know, it may change as we go forward, but for now, and at least for the short future, look out for this sign. Currently there are just over 42,000 businesses in Britain that have this mark. So it's something we've rolled out and it's been very popular. There is a website, the Good to Go uk.co.uk. If anybody is looking to go to Britain and does want to specifically look for businesses that have this accreditation, then this is definitely something to look out for. So what I'm going to start at is really simple actually. Great Britain, United Kingdom, the UK. A lot of people may not realise or may not know the exact definition behind the two, and it's actually quite simple. So Great Britain is actually the island itself. I think they're back. I got them back to front. I've just realised. I apologise as I've made this. So Great Britain is actually the island itself. So you've got England itself, Wales and Scotland. And then United Kingdom, which is this map, is England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So I've just noticed, and my apologies, when I was creating this document, I obviously mismatched the maps there. And then, so I'll break it down a little bit further. So if you hear me talking about certain regions, we've also got Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, so we keep them as they are. But England itself, because it's the larger of the nations, we split that up a little bit more. So we always take London itself and talk about London on its own. We'll then talk southeast, southwest, central England, and northern England. Just makes it a lot easier because, if you think of the US, cram that into Britain, there's just so much to do and see. We like to kind of split it up a little bit. Size of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. This is a rough comparison with California. So just kind of give you the idea that it's actually smaller than California itself. Population, it's a lot larger than California. So we are a lot more crammed in, but we have less, deserts, for example, in California. We still have a lot of open spaces, but obviously not as much as the US would have. But in this small nation, we do have a vast range of cultures and a vast range of landscapes to go with it. So a little bit of basics. So population roughly 65 million. I think the US currently 320 million. So give you a comparison. 69 major cities. So not in England or Britain, we have a lot of cities, but we have a lot of towns and villages. So I know in the US it's not as popular. And then we actually even go down as far as something called a hamlet. And a hamlet would just be a cluster of houses in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the countryside. So that's what a hamlet is. Great thing is you're never further than 2-hour drive away from the coast. So it is really easy to fit in a coastal trip with the country, with the city. It's not like you need to separate a whole day, although you'll probably want to, but if you just want to go out for a short half-day trip to the beaches or to the coast, very simple. And obviously we are an island nation, so there is a lot of coastline to visit. If you want to stay more inland, 15 national parks there. They're all free to visit. Each one's very different depending on where you are in the country, south to north. Train stations, you see 2,500 trains. So Europe is very well known for the ability to get about by train. We have something called the Brit Rail Pass, which was actually created predominantly from the US market. It's something where you can actually buy a multiple day pass to use on the railway across Britain, which isn't actually advertised in Britain or elsewhere. It's designed to the US, because we want the US North American traveler to understand that train is actually the best way to get about, because we do obviously drive the wrong side of the road now, I guess. So train's definitely the best way. Hundreds, thousands, museums, great. Most of them are free, especially ones in about London. So they're always a great way to spend the day if you don't want to spend a lot of money. UNESCO World Heritage Sites, again, spread all out. Even in the big cities, the city of Bath, for example, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site itself. And then those who are brave to get a car, and I do recommend hiring a car if you are brave enough. You can drive north to south in approximately 14.5 hours, which may seem long for a small country, but we don't quite have the infrastructure for the motorways or highways like the US does. Apart from ones around London, usually they're only 3 to 4 lanes wide. So that's usually why it takes a little longer. So getting to Britain probably seems like a bit of a strange and silly thing to talk about. Airline, obviously flying is obviously the most, will be the main way unless someone's going to cross the Atlantic in a boat. We do have a lot of airports, especially in and around London. The only airports that actually work with the American market, London Heathrow, as I'm sure most of you will have heard of, is the main one. It's more likely you are going to fly into there. Some do go into London Gatwick. Some from the East Coast, predominantly New York, will fly into London City, obviously a little bit more expensive. If you want to go to Wales or the Midlands, then there are some that will fly into Manchester. And then I know on the East Coast and Chicago as well, will fly into Edinburgh. And I think it's, top of my head, Newark, will fly into Glasgow. So those who are wanting to visit Scotland can fly direct there. For those wanting to visit Ireland, it would either be into Heathrow and then another flight, or fly direct into Dublin, and then you can make your way up to Northern Ireland that way. By boat, I know that you guys obviously do a lot of cruises. So Southampton is the main port for major cruise ships. You see it on the south coast there. It's approximately an hour and a half away from London on the train. You can also get there via Plymouth, Portsmouth. I'm not going to run through them all, but most of them will operate to more European cities. So a lot of the ones on the south coast, many go to France, possibly Spain, Portugal, and then as you head up the east coast, a lot of those do the Nordic countries, the Netherlands, places like that. You can come by train. There is the Eurostar, which will run, the main stop is Paris. You can go from, I think it's Brussels and Amsterdam now, but it'll all go through Paris. And there are 3 stops. You can stop in Folkestone, Kent, if you wish, or Ashford. But most of them will come in straight to St. Pancras in London, the main station there, big famous station. And then once in Britain, to get around, I think I said earlier, train is the best way. And just kind of give you an idea, if you're coming in from London, this is either if you want to do day trips or if you're going further on with your journey. Windsor's only 30 minutes away, so great for a day trip. Go out to Windsor Castle, sorry. Southampton, as I said, so if you are coming in on a cruise, and again, you're only in 1 hour, 15 minutes if you get the right train straight to London. Penzance, the furthest to the end of the train line down in the southwest, 5.5 hours. And then there is actually a fast train up to Edinburgh, so you can actually get to Edinburgh in 4 hours and 15 minutes. Furthest point north, I did have a look. There is a place called Wick, which is the end of the line in Scotland. You have to get 3 trains to get to it. Eventually, it takes you about 16 hours. I'm sure if anybody wants to go that far, they want to go to the end of the line in Scotland, but that's roughly how far it is from London. And then by coach or by bus, again, similar. It's also going to be a little bit longer on the roads. Bath, just over 3 hours away. If you want to go to Edinburgh, it's usually an overnight sleeper bus, coach, 9.5 hours. But again, the option's there, and it's a bit more of a cost-effective way, possibly, if somebody wants to do that. And a lot of the coaches nowadays, those with the National Express, which is our main coach line, like you guys have Greyhounds, we have something called National Express. Nowadays, they'll come with Wi-Fi, leather seats, entertainment on board, so it can be still a nice way to travel. And then those that are in maybe a bit of a rush or don't want to hang around on land a bit more, you can get flights. So it just gives you an idea of some of the places you can go direct from London. If you want to fly up to Inverness, Edinburgh, if you want to go over to Northern Ireland or down the southwest to Newquay. The ones that don't have the lines on, they're more international airports if you want to go to Europe. So again, you know, if you want to do a couple of stops, a couple of countries, you can fly into the UK, and then say you want to go up to Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, something like that. If you look at the right air carriers, then you possibly be able to get a flight over to France, Spain, Italy, something like that, as well as there are a lot of internal flights in Europe. So I'm going to talk about London now. Obviously, it's a major selling point. So let's just get on with it. So I'm just going to pick out some key attractions. So these are going to be some obvious ones. A lot of you will have heard of them. Big one, start big. Let's go Buckingham Palace. I know it's very popular with everything going on. Everyone's been locked down. Everyone's been watching Netflix, watching The Crown, things like that. So Buckingham Palace is open to the public in the summer every year, but only for a short time. But you can still get the impressive views from the outside if you do come at different parts of the year, or even if you're unable to get tickets or for whatever reason the day you're going to go isn't available. You can see the changing of the guard still. The other one is the Horse Guards Parade. So you may see some on horses. It's in a different location to the one outside the palace. To go to Buckingham Palace, you can book to visit the staterooms from July to October. And may have selected dates for exclusive tours through winter and spring, but I've not been aware of any of them, so I wouldn't rely on that. That might just be a bit of luck if that were the case. Booking tickets far in advance is essential. It's a very, very popular attraction. It can be done directly with the Royal Collection Trust website, which is www.rct.uk. If you do decide to go, you manage to get tickets. You give around 2.5 hours for the tour. I must say that photography is not allowed in the staterooms. They will be very strict on this, but you do get to explore some of the gardens. So you are allowed to take pictures of that. And there also is a very strict screening service going in, with security. Secondly, Houses of Parliament. Again, they do some tours around them, not many. At the moment, Big Ben, the famous clock tower, is undergoing renovations. It won't actually toll again until 2021. So at some point this year, hopefully when you guys will be able to visit, you'll be able to see it in its full grandeur. Madame Tussauds, very famous, world famous waxworks of London. It's been there for years. I went as a child. Some of them are very lifelike, so it's something on the list. It's the second most visited attraction in London, only behind the Tower of London. So the Tower of London, very famous, used to be a fortress, a prison, even a zoo over the years. Now it's renowned for holding the crown jewels. So they're actually really the real crown jewels of the Queen. Again, heavily guarded, but you're allowed to go in and visit them and see them in all their grandeur. And then the last one is, again, a very famous site is it's now known as the Coca-Cola London Eye. It's changed its sponsorship. It used to be the British Airways. It's basically a massive ferry wheel on the Thames. The next picture actually is a picture from the eye, but it gives you basically a 360 degree view of London. Very popular tourist attraction. Again, it's always kind of one of those ones you want to say you've done and seen. So as I said, this is a view from the London Eye. But what we're going to talk about now is actually a few kind of hidden gems, things that maybe you may not have thought to go and see, or something that you can at least come back and say, well, I did this, and people will be a bit more intrigued. You've got a bit of a story to tell. First one, the Royal Museums at Greenwich. These comprise of the National Maritime Museum, the Cutty Sark, which is a famous ship, the Royal Observatory, and the Queen's House. So it's down in sort of southeast London. You can get there by the tube and the train, but it's just a little bit, museums are a little different out of the central part of London. You can experience the tranquility of Richmond Royal Park. It's one of London's 8 royal parks. It covers approximately 2,500 acres. Has a lot of wide open spaces, grasslands. The deers run wild there, and I guarantee you will see deers. And it's only a stone's throw away from central London. You get a train out there, and you'll be there within 20 minutes, half an hour. And then it's a short walk from the train station. I lived there when I lived in London. I lived not far from Richmond, so I spent a lot of time in the park. It was very, very peaceful, very beautiful. And if you stand at the tallest point in the park, it's not that high, but if you do, you can see the tip of St. Paul's Cathedral. One of the newest attractions is actually the Postal Museum. It's not far from King's Cross St. Pancras Station in central London. It features a lot of interactive galleries. There's actually even an underground railway or rail line that was previously used for one of the 100-year-old post office railway system. So it's interesting. I find it fascinating. Things you don't realize were happening underground all these years ago. You can enjoy a view over the rooftops at the Sky Garden, or also known as the view from the Shard. The Shard is the tallest building in London. You can go up there and you can just go up, pay to have a view, but they do have bars and restaurants up there as well. So if you want to go up and sit and have a meal, it's a nice view through the London skyline. And then for the younger ones, or younger at heart people at least, when we had the Olympics in 2012, a lot of it was done what they call the Olympic Park, which is in East London. And now they've got something called the Accelerator Orbit. And it's basically let's see what it says, it's the world's highest and longest tunnel slide, 178 meters long. So if you want to go down and see what the Olympic Village is like, there's still a lot of remnants of it, and then participate on the slide. But it's just a bit of fun. Maybe the kids would enjoy it. And then just going to cover a little bit quickly about World Heritage Sites, because we actually have 4 of them, 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites just in London. You've got Westminster Palace, Westminster Abbey, and St. Margaret's Church all together. The historic buildings showcase the growth of the English monarchy. A lot of them are famous. A lot of weddings, royal weddings happening there. You've got the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew, which is actually not far from Richmond Park, established in 1759. They have the world's largest collection of living plants, over 3,500 plant species and 16 million dried plant specimens. Top right-hand corner there, a beautiful place just if you just even want to just go and have a walk around. Tower of London, as I mentioned before, is also now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then the Maritime Museum at Greenwich, I mentioned as well. They've made that into, obviously, if anybody's heard as timing, and they say GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. So this is in relation to the observatory and the museum based out of Greenwich. And then something which we've seen a huge growing attraction throughout Britain are brewery distillery tours. The ones here in London, obviously you're going to get things like whiskey and all that in Scotland, but breweries and gin are 2 of the biggest ones we found. what I like what we're doing now is, as this is going to be recorded on YouTube, so if you guys are watching this and you are interested, you can also just come back, pause it, and write down a few of these. So it's just the name and the town or the area that's in. They're very simple to find, and these all do tours throughout the days. And then finally, some food experience. So Britain may not be renowned for its culinary options, but to be honest, it really should be. I mean, there's a vast array of options in London, a lot of it through immigration. You know, we had a lot of Indians, Thai, things like that. You can be on a street with a pub and next door is an Indian restaurant, and then next to that is going to be an Italian. You know, there's a huge range there. So this was just a collection of places that I'd found and I wanted to share. Again, I'm not going to run through it all. It's kind of one of those ones where, again, you are going and you just want to write down some information before you trip. A couple of these places I think you really enjoyed. They're really different. Some of them are, you know, a lot of local people go there. Some of them, for example, the last one is very catered for the tourist. But it's definitely worth checking out one or two just for something a bit different, and you're not going to all the McDonald's and well-known restaurants. So next we're going to head southeast. So most of these places are going to be within a 2-hour reach of London. So from a lot of our research, we found, especially with American travelers, spend a lot of time in London, and then they do want to take day trips, so they do want to go out, but they don't go too far. And so we've realized there is a 2-hour sort of window around. And so a lot of time we do a lot of focusing on that. So just to give you an idea of sort of where we're looking, here's a couple of the cities and towns around the southeast, just to give you, more of an idea. And the lines break up all the counties. So why southeast? Some of the key attractions among those are mentioned already on day trips. The gardens of the southeast, very famous, very well known. Kent is known as the Garden of England, that's its nickname. But you've got like the National Trust Bateman's, Sheffield Park Gardens, Winkworth Arboretum, Wakehurst Palace, RHS, which stands for the Royal Horticultural Society, Wisley, or Hyde Hall, a couple of beautiful places to visit. You've got the Suffolk coast. This got very picturesque towns and beaches, Southwold, Aldeburgh. Perfect place to stop, wander, get some fish and chips on the beach. If you just want to get out to the coast, it's a great place to go. You've got Oxford, beautiful city, drenched in history, along with its world-famous university. You can also do tours around or just wander the grounds. I mentioned it earlier, Windsor Castle, perfect day trip. Those of you who love The Crown on Netflix, this has actually been the home of the Queen for over 900 years. You can visit, do tours, but if unfortunately she is at home that day, she's not in one of her other residents, maybe that's a good day to head to Buckingham Palace, or maybe up to Scotland. She has many residents, but you'd be very unlucky if you happen to go there on a day that she happened to be here. And then lastly, Brighton. Brighton is on the south coast, so you just catch a train. You can be there in just over an hour from London. It's full of interesting stories. There's a randomly an Indian palace down there that was built many years ago. There's a lot of windy streets, quaint shops, cafes, restaurants. It's really a cool little town to be, or city, sorry. On the coast, so there's piers, history again. It's also the LGBTQ capital of Britain. So if you have anybody interested in that kind of thing, then we highly recommend visiting Brighton. And then a couple of things to yet be discovered, or we recommend if you want to do something a little bit different. Portsmouth. Not many people maybe think of visiting Portsmouth. It's just around the corner from Southampton on the south coast. It's got a very historic dockyard. It's home to the Mary Rose expedition, which is one of Henry VIII's warships. It was lost in 1545 and then recovered in 1982. And so it was restored. You've also got the Emirates Spinnaker Tower, which is in the picture there. It's got very amazing views across what they call the Solent, which is the area of water in front of Portsmouth City. The Kent coast, so we're going to go up the coast a bit more, go east up until kind of as far as you can go, really. You've got a lot of white cliffs, sandy beaches, and then there's the beautiful seaside towns of Whitstable, Margate, Folkestone, and of course, a lot of you would have heard of Dover. Go inland a bit more, you've got the New Forest. This is going to be near Southampton, Portsmouth area. Beautiful area, perfect for walking, hiring bikes. You can even try a hand at a Segway tour through the woods. They actually have wild horses and donkeys running wild as well, so you might be lucky to catch a view of that. For those who are going to spend a bit more time in the area, around Portsmouth and Southampton, then you catch a ferry across to the Isle of Wight with Red Funnel or Right Link ferries. It takes approximately 45 minutes. And then just explore somewhere a little bit different. Not many people tend to visit the Isle of Wight, but it's quite a nice place. A lot of Brits go there on vacation. There are 3 amazing castles to explore in the southeast. You've got Leeds Castle, nowhere near Leeds. Leeds is more in the Midlands, but I'm not quite sure I got the name, but it's down in Kent. It actually got named the loveliest castle in the world, and it's very renowned because it's built in the middle of a lake. So rather than build a moat around it, they just actually build it in the middle of the lake. Bodiam Castle is a 14th century moated castle, so they built the moat on this, built by a former knight of King Edward III, so a lot of history there. And then finally you got Hever Castle. It's a beautiful place, and you can actually stay the night there. They have accommodations, and that's very famous for being built and owned by the Boleyn family. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because their daughter Anne Boleyn went on to marry and become one of the 6 wives of Henry VIII. So heading sort of north, northeast, northwest, we do central England. So I didn't break this one down so much, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we're looking at. Some of the famous things which you may have heard of, top key attractions. Warwick Castle is in the picture there with the boys fighting. It's a well-restored castle which dates back to 1068. It's a lot of history. It's got a lot of programs and activities going on. So if you go in the summer, I'm sure there's going to have some sort of activity happening that day. Birmingham from London, hour and 25 minutes on the train. Had a lot of money put into it. It's actually got the longest canal network in Europe, more than Venice. There's 56 kilometers of waterways. So it was a very high industrial city back in for past century. People may know it now. Very famous for Peaky Blinders, very famous show on Netflix. So for those who've watched that, that's where it's set. And there's actually over 8,000 acres of parks and open space in Birmingham as well. So it's actually classed as the greenest city in the UK. Birmingham Hippodrome is it's the busiest and most popular theatre in the UK, and actually has over 500,000 visitors each year watching all different kinds of performances. So a lot to do in Birmingham. Might not necessarily be the first thing on people's lists to visit, but there's always stuff to do there. Stratford-upon-Avon, a bit more of a popular place. You can get a lot of American tourists there because it's famous for being the birthplace of Shakespeare. Now it's home to the Royal Shakespeare Company, which is set on the riverside, and you can go visit. They'll have performances happening every day normally. They'll have performances there, so if you want to go watch a piece of Shakespeare's art, then it's the best place to go, and you can visit his home, his school. I think it's his wife or his girlfriend's house there. They're all visitor attractions now, so you can spend the day wandering around. The Cotswolds, becoming very popular. It's a national park. It's a lot of picturesque. So when you see pictures of British villages, English villages, a lot of them are from the Cotswolds. So there's a very famous one with a bridge, old brick cottages. It's from the Cotswolds. So we get a lot of people wanting to go there because you can do a bit of the countryside, but then you can go to all these quaint little villages, go and have a tea, some scones, and it really makes even I enjoy that. And I'm British, and it's very quaint British. And then lastly, Cambridge. We talked about Oxford. Cambridge is the other famous university, but again, a very old city, drenched in history. A lot of lovely small canals and rivers running through the city. So one very famous thing to do is go punting, which is where you have the boat and you have the stick, and you can rent that and just have a nice relaxing day on the river. When I say river, it's not very big, very they're very calm, so it's just a nice day out. A few things to be discovered. The Norfolk Broads has 125 miles of waterways, that's 200 kilometers. They were formed by the flooding of medieval peat excavations. So they used to excavate them, the peat, mainly for fuel back in a long time ago. I'm not going to name a date. But then they flooded over time, and now they've just become a beautiful place. And I know it's become a bird sanctuary as well, so anybody interested in that. You can take a boat trip or even hire a boat, and you can just go and discover all the amazing wildlife that's now built up around that area. The Shropshire Hills, or the Peak District, a lot of people will have heard of it. These both offer stunning sceneries and a wealth of outdoor activity. So I know with everything that's going on in the current world, we're finding that more people are looking to do more outdoors and get away from the crowd. So somewhere like the Peak District would be a perfect place for that. Alton Towers. Alton Towers is the most popular theme park in Britain. Has a water park there as well. It's the UK's only roller coaster restaurant where the food is delivered by a mini roller coaster. Again, something for the kids. I've been there a few times growing up as a kid. I think the last time I went there I was probably about 16, but still good fun. Anybody who likes Disney and things like that, then you'll love this because it's just full of the fast, fun rides. Nottingham, finally, home to what's thought to be the oldest pub in the UK. It's called Ye Olde Trip to Jerusalem, and they reckon it dates back from 1189. It's incorporating caves from Nottingham Castle also. And you may have also heard of Sherwood Forest. This is just outside Nottingham in the county of Nottinghamshire, and that's very famous for where the stories of Robin Hood has been told. So that's kind of central England. So I've just based a little bit around London. It's a lot of quick information, but those of you who are sort of, are looking to possibly do a trip and want some ideas, hopefully you guys can come back, just jot down some notes, of course, do your own research, look up things. Big thing at the moment is going to be plan ahead, buy tickets if you want to go anywhere. I know with the current pandemic, a lot of the companies are only allowing pre-booked appointments or pre-booked tickets. If you just turn up, or places won't let you in. And I expect it's going to be like that for the next few years. Okay, so, and then I wanted to cover Scotland, because Scotland we found, especially during the pandemic from all our research, becoming very popular. A lot of people have been looking at Scotland in all different ways. Scotland like to be very independent from England. I'm sure I know that comes across a lot with their Prime Minister. Only just over 4 hours away if you want to get the quick train up from London up to Edinburgh. It's about 4 hours and 15 minutes. So just looking at it, breaking it down a little bit more, you'll see roughly where Edinburgh, Glasgow are. St Andrews, famous for the golf, obviously. You've got the Highlands, and then obviously you've got all the islands scattered around. Inverness is up more towards the peak, so anybody who wants to visit Inverness. Scotland's very mountainous, should we say, and hilly. Road network isn't vast, so beautiful country, recommend anyone to go, but just bear in mind it takes quite a long time to get around places, including by train. I think, like I said, if you want to go to the last point on the railway line, which is called Wick up in Scotland, you can get to Edinburgh in 4 hours. It takes another 12 hours just to get to the tip of Scotland. So that kind of gives you an idea of how slow things move around, and there are no direct roads or routes anywhere because everything tends to stick to the coast more because I guess where it's flattest. Scotland in numbers, just to kind of give you a bit of an idea of those interested. So a lot of coastline, over 6,000 miles of coastline, over 900 islands. So most of them, I think it's 2/3 of them inhabited roughly. Not surprised, 120 whiskey distilleries. That's probably not surprised to most of you. 84 linked golf courses. Those of you know what that, I'm sure a lot of you know what links means, but those of you who don't, links basically means it's more natural. So they've taken the land and tried to keep it as natural as possible, rather than create a golf course instead of it being a very man-made golf course. So they're very famous for the professional scene. St Andrews, Carnoustie, places like that. There are 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites just in Scotland. 40 areas of natural scenic areas, that makes sense. Beauty, I think it's meant to say, I've just misspelled that. they have something different. We have national parks. They do have 2 national parks. They don't call them national parks, but they do have 2 official national parks. But Scotland is just full of beautiful scenery, and I think to us, the whole country itself is pretty much should be a national park. So, as I've already discussed with the other places, why Scotland? Some of the key attractions. Obviously, Edinburgh. Everybody goes to Scotland, going to want to go to Edinburgh. It's like going to England and going to London. Some of the main attractions are going to include Edinburgh Castle. You've got the Royal Mile, the Palace of Holyrood House, which is the Queen's residence when she's in Edinburgh. If you can get out and more to the countryside, go to the Highlands. I'm pretty sure anybody who's watched Outlander or parts of The Crown and Downton, they did a lot of filming in the Highlands. Very picturesque. Go and see the coo, the cows, the ones with the big horns, just roaming around. Some of the iconic castles around Scotland, you've got the Queen and her family spend their summers in Balmoral, which is up in Aberdeenshire. It's open to the public from April to the end of July. So anybody, say, who's on a quest to visit some of their royal residents, April to the end of July is when you can go to Balmoral. Beyond that, it's closed, or the Queen is in residence. Whiskey distilleries, obviously, a lot of them. There are 40 distilleries and visitor centres that are open to visitors. So although there are a lot more, as I said before, 40 of them do actually have tours. It's actually possible to follow what is known as the Malt Whisky Trail, and it's to visit distilleries in the Scottish Highlands. The route along the coast from Alsace to Campbelltown, and then from Mull to the Isle of Skye is known as the Whisky Coast. And this actually includes 14 distilleries to visitors that are open to visitors that you can actually visit and do a tour. So if you're interested in whiskey up in Scotland, if you just want to do one, fantastic. If you fancy doing a few more, you can do a whole trail and spend a lot longer time doing it. The Royal Yacht Britannia, that's actually berthed at Edinburgh Port of Leith. So if you're in Edinburgh, definitely worth going to see it. So the Queen and the royal family used the yacht for over 40 years. It's done over 1 million miles around the world. Now it's an attraction. It's actually one of Edinburgh's most popular attractions. And then a couple of things, hidden things. The Scottish Islands, again, it's home to almost 800 islands. I think I said 900. I think it's 800. I don't know if it's like 890, something around that, 193. They're broken down into 4 main groups. You've got Shetlands, Orkney, the Hebrides, and then subdivided into the Inner Hebrides and the Outer Hebrides. So there are a lot. You can island hop. So not all of them are inhabited. There are some more famous ones. The Isle of Skye is very famous. Isle of Bute. So some of them, I know the Isle of Skye, where a lot of visitors go there, and a lot of tour companies will include that in part of their tours. That's on the west coast of Scotland. The ones towards the north are a bit more secluded, so they're not as popular, but if you've got the time and you've got the resources, then it's a great place to visit, and you won't forget it, and you'll love it. And there's a lot of famous arts and crafts in that area you can get involved with. Festivals, Scotland and particularly Edinburgh, very famous for its festivals. You've got something called the Edinburgh International Festival, established in 1947 after World War II, and that was created to, what they said is a flowering of human spirit. So they're trying to get people to get together. Now it has over 3,000 different events each year, with over 25,000 performers happening. Another famous one is called the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's now classed as the largest arts festival in the world. It takes place in August for 3 weeks. Has a variety of stages across the city as well. They have different things with different tastes. You've got everything from theatre, comedy, dance, musicals, opera, music, expeditions and events. It's great. The comedy is a lot of the famous comedians from Britain usually come through the Fringe Festival, the Edinburgh Fringe. Glasgow, not always high up on the list, but becoming very well known now for the museum and galleries. It's on the west of Scotland. It's about an hour's train ride from Edinburgh. So, you know, you can get there in a short time. You've got the Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum. It's actually one of Scotland's most popular free attractions. Has 22 themed galleries, has approximately 8,000 objects. Highlights include a real RAF, Royal Air Force Spitfire aircraft built in 1944. Yeah, things like that. So it's a very popular museum to visit. Those into golf, or even if you just want to visit these places very famous, you've got the Old Course St Andrews. Difficult to get tee times. Does require a bit of research. It's done kind of on a lottery, but there are other courses at St Andrews that you can get tee times for. But if you want to play particularly the Old Course, the famous one that professionals play, I know a lot of that's done on a lottery. But you do have like Carnoustie as well, which is up on the East Coast, another famous golf course. Often those can get times, can be a bit expensive depending on the time of year and the popularity of it. And then lastly, every year there are more than 800 Highland game meetings that happen across Scotland. The Highland Games are a uniquely Scottish mix of culture, sport, music, and community. You may have seen bits and pieces. I know there's been shows on Netflix about them. Some of the sports include like tossing the caber. And a caber is a Scottish pine tree, approximately just under 6 meters tall, weighs around 80 kilograms. And basically the trick is you've got to throw it and make it do a full 360-degree turn, which may sound simple, but when you're trying to throw a 6 foot, 80 kilogram log in the air and throw it and twist it, it's not as easy as it looks. Not that I've tried, but not as easy as it looks. When professionals struggle to do it. And now I touch on the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, a very popular Edinburgh festival. It's an annual series, the Military Tattoo, performed by British Armed Forces and also from the Commonwealth and International Military Bands. So it's a music artistic performance. And it's done mainly on at the Edinburgh Castle, I think, which is one of the highlights attractions. A lot of people just go and see the castle itself, but if you happen to be there between the 6th and the 28th of August, and then as you can see from the picture there, you do get a lot of crowds. The tattoo has a proud history. It stretches back for almost 7 decades, following the production of Something About a Soldier in the Ross Bandstand in 1949. It was decided to create an event which ran alongside the existing Edinburgh festivals. The official tattoo was duly created with its first performance in 1950. Tickets are actually still available this year. I did have a look. Can be bought online through their own website or by phone. Obviously, just take that, you know, as you will. Whether it will happen or not, you know, we don't know. But they're being optimistic. I know a lot of people from 2020 would have turned, pushed on to 2021 for their tickets. But if anybody is looking to book or is hoping to book soon with Charles and Sherry for Scotland in the summer, then I'd say, you know, go for it. Jump on, grab tickets while you still can, because as soon as everything opens up, and that will sell out pretty much straight away. And then I just want to give a little sneak peek. I got sent this this week. It's a promotional piece of material that's coming out to print, actually. I'm not sure where it's been sent to, but it was done with a different department and I got a preview of it, so I thought I'd add it in. I'm not going to cover too much detail on it. I'm going to leave it here for people to come back, pause, read a bit more. But basically, it's 21 reasons to love Britain in 2021. So hopefully we can get people to come back. The ones I picked out a couple just to throw out there, some of my favorites. Number 4, hopefully, finally, we might be able to get the Bond film to come out. It's been postponed twice already. Big Bond fan myself, love it. Very British, so I feel it's kind of close to my heart, and I'll always enjoy the new ones. So that's due to come out in April. That was on number 4 on the list. Number 7, Coventry, just around the corner from Birmingham. It's in the Midlands, is the City of Culture for 2021. Like Birmingham, has a lot more history than you can ever realise. So again, a lot of canals. It's where the Jaguar plants, the car, were originally built. So in the US, I know I like my old British cars. So I know here a lot of time, if you look at a lot of the old British cars, all of them were built in Coventry. Number 12 for Scotland. Scotland for 2020, but they've moved over to 2021, Year of the Coasts and Waters. So this has been rolled over. So again, if you're able to visit Scotland this year, there's going to be a lot of events happening around the coasts. If you're going to go and visit the islands or even around, Edinburgh's on the coast there, keep an eye out. There's going to be a lot of things happening. And then finally, number 19, which is Wales, Year of the Outdoors. Again, rolled over from 2020 onto 2021. They're doing all about outdoors for Wales. So Wales has the fastest zip line in the world. If that's just something fun you want to do while you're there, or those of you who like to get out and do hiking and walking, you're actually able to walk the whole coastline of Wales. So if you want to book some places to stay along the way, just make a week of a nice scenic walk all along the coastlines. So any of you who's interested and want to do something a bit different, say come back, pause this, and you can read up about that. And then there is a map as well. So it's broken down. Hopefully these QR codes will work. Again, come back, pause it. Hopefully the picture quality is good enough. I'll link you to the websites that have all that information. So there's just a few there, take you to the main cities and also give you an idea of some of the other cities and places around Britain. And that's it. And then that's me. That's my information. So if anybody has any questions, they want to reach out to me directly. All our social media channels there. Be sure to check them out, like them. As we always say, we do updates. It's like the Instagram and the Facebooks and the Twitters. They're always posting stuff, inspirational stuff about that. We do have videos on our YouTube. And then really the best source of information, always say this to everybody, visitbritain.com if you are a client of Charles and Sheree. If you happen to be an agent, we do have put a trade in front of the Visit Britain, so www.trade.visitbritain.com. That'll give more information for any trade agents out there. But for those of you who just want some basic information or a bit unsure about something, our website is the best place to go. And then also they have the shop there. So if you are struggling for tickets or any agents, again, Charles and Sheree, if you want to help with clients, you can book tickets. And if you're an agent, you do get some commission through certain attractions and things through that. And that's it from me.
Jonathan, I feel a little bit like a mosquito in a nudist colony. I know what to do, but where do I start? And the thing that is so intriguing about this is that as many times as Sherry and I have been to United Kingdom, there were probably fewer than a third of the things that you talked about there that I want to see that we have actually seen. And I think the thing that I would offer for anyone that's viewing this YouTube video is that our travel advisors at Just Cruising Plus will help you sort through all of these things, whether you have a few days prior to taking a cruise or a few days after a cruise, or if you're doing a 2-week excursion. Call one of the advisors at Just Cruising Plus. They'll be happy to help you. They are knowledgeable about these things, and they can help learn about what you want to do and direct you to the most efficient use of the time that you have available for these sorts of things. You can reach us at 615-833-0922, 615-833-0922, or visit our website. It's at jcp.travel. That's .travel, not .com. We tried to get jcp.com, but the folks at JCPenney's were just a bunch of fuss budgets and didn't want to give it up. The counselors, our advisors, are waiting to hear from you. And again, it's 615-833-0922. And Sherry, what are your closing thoughts?
Too many to even start with. I actually sat here and made notes. The last time we were there, Jonathan, we did a tour with a tour company that does British movie tours. I think it's called Brit Movie Tours, if I'm not mistaken. We did an excursion to Highclere and to Bampton, and that was, oh my gosh, that was the most fantastic day to be able to visit Downton Abbey and actually see where it was filmed, and to realize that the little town that they walked down the hill to every day to go to church was 30 miles away. That kind of surprised us. It really did. We also, a couple of things in London that I truly love, and that I don't think you mentioned, but one of them is getting a London pass, so that you'll have the London pass to get into some of the museums that do have a fee to get into, like going into Westminster or to Churchill's War Rooms, which, by the way, was just an absolutely fantastic time. I think Charlie could have spent the entire day in
I
Churchill's
absolutely
War Rooms.
could. And watching the story, the motion picture about Winston Churchill, and seeing the war rooms and having been there and seeing these things and saying to myself, I was right there, or I've been in that room, that sort of thing was just so fascinating.
We've done the tour of Buckingham Palace. Another thing on the London Pass, I think that people don't realize, is that being able to go to the British Museum, which is one of the most incredible art museums in the world, and also when you started mentioning things about food, the one thing that Charlie and I love the most is pub grub.
Me too. I miss that.
Oh,
I miss that. So.
pub grub is so incredibly good, and we both love it. And our favorite pub, I think, in all of London is close to Buckingham. It's called Bag o' Nails.
Okay.
I love that place. I mean, we've been there a number of times, and we'd go back over and over and over. But the thing about the London Pass, and let me just hammer on that, it's so great because you can use that as transportation to get you around the city too, because you do the hop on hop off bus and you get to see everything, and you're getting commentary as you go. And it was just an exceptional way for us. We've done it a couple of times, and it's an exceptional way to see things as you go. If you go back more than once, to be able to go back and see something that you haven't seen before. So, we walked into St. Paul's Cathedral one afternoon, and they were doing Vespers, and it was just the most incredible experience.
I got chills just thinking about that.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was just amazing. And of course, one of my favorite places in London to visit is Westminster. I'm a big, huge English literature nut.
Okay.
And so to go to the Poets' Corner and see where all these people are buried, and to know that Handel is buried there, because Handel, the Messiah, was played there for the first time in Westminster, and he had to get permission to be buried there. And I thought that was just such an incredible thing. But we both absolutely just love Great Britain. We truly do. It's one of our favorite places to go. In fact, we are planning to go back in October, isn't it, this year?
Okay.
Yep, we're planning to go back in October. We'll spend probably 3 or 4 days there. We're going to do a transatlantic crossing.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that we can. We've done the military tattoo. One of the most moving experiences ever. Absolutely. It was just amazing. And I'll tell you one quick story before we end. My family, my heritage is English and Scottish. My maiden name is Shepherd. And it's very Scottish. Well, it's Scottish. My mother was a Sharon, which is very English, but the Shepherd clan came from the Scottish side. And I also have McNabb. Was my grandmother and my great grandparents were McNabbs. And so we were up at Edinburgh Castle doing a tour, and the guide that we had, I will never forget this. We walked up to him, and he was talking, and he wanted to know if anybody had family that had Scottish names. And I said, yeah, my family's Scottish was McNabb. And he said, oh, I'm really sorry. He said, they were bad people. I had no idea.
Maybe that's why they went to the US.
Right.
They were cattle rustlers and horse thieves.
Who knew? And then I have a son-in-law who's a Graham, and that's just about as Scottish as you can get to. So
Yeah. Right.
we have in fact, my daughter has done a lot of genealogy and ancestry on our family as well as his.
Mhm.
And she told me one day, she said, Mom, I think Jim and I are probably related some way down the line.
So that genealogy tool is becoming very popular as well, especially with the US. So,
and you know, and we've had a lot of people that want to do Harry Potter tours, and they're wanting to do all of these different series that have been on, and we can help do that. We can help, and you guys are a great source of information for us to go to. But we really, really appreciate your time today, your knowledge. It just makes me want to go back, and to know that we already have that on our calendar for this year is really exciting, to be able to go back and visit some of the places and possibly see some things that we haven't seen before. You got anything else, Charlie? But we appreciate everything. And Jonathan, hopefully we can have you back and let you talk to us about some other places in Great Britain.
More than happy to. I'd love to. So yeah, thank you. And guys, if you have any questions, head to Charles and Cherie first. If they're unable to answer it, they'll come to me, and we'll get that answer for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Jonathan. All righty.
Okay.